Mulan was blessed with a lot of chi energy, but she was not a boy, but a girl. If she was a boy, she could have been a strong warrior, but because she was a girl, she was always ridiculed by people, and a strong girl like that was even considered a witch. One day, while chasing a hen that had escaped from their yard, the wing of the statue of the phoenix worshipped by their ancestors was broken, and she jumped from the roof like a bird, shocking everyone, but no one, including her father, approved of Mulan's actions. Her father and mother were worried that their only daughter would not be able to find a good husband because she looked like a boy instead of a girl. That's why her father always taught Mulan to hide her strong chi and live as a gentle girl. In the desert region of northwest China, a merchant traveled with 3 camels, and the witch Stan Yang possessed that innocent merchant, and she pretended to be that merchant and sneaked into town. Shortly after, the Ruran army led by Bori Khan invaded the fortress, and the guards prepared to fight back as they closed the gates to prevent the enemy from entering the town. But the witch Stan Yang, who had arrived in the town first, wiped out the guard soldiers protecting at the gate, and the Ruran soldiers led by Bori Khan climbed over the ramparts and began to attack the guard soldiers. In the end, Bori Khan's side won, and the witch Stan Yang went to the royal capital disguised as a surviving soldier. When she arrived at the palace, Stan Yang, pretending to be a surviving soldier, reported to the emperor that all the guards in the fortress had been killed by the Ruran army led by Bori Khan, and the emperor ordered that 1 man per family in the kingdom be conscripted to form a powerful army. The witch Stan Yang returned to her fortress and reported to Bori Khan that the emperor would send more soldiers to protect the Silk Road. Bori Khan, the army leader, wanted to take revenge for the death of his father, Bori Khan, and he was not the real Bori Khan but the son of Bori Khan. Because of her powers, the witch was not allowed to live as a citizen in the kingdom. She was driven out of the kingdom, and she was now under the control of Bori Khan. Now that Mulan had come of age, her parents were planning to marry off their daughter to a suitable man. Mulan didn't want to get married, but she couldn't disobey her father and mother, and she agreed to get married, worrying that her family's honor would be disgraced. Just like that, her mother herself prepared Mulan to be a beautiful and attractive girl according to their tradition and took her to the matchmaker, Xiao. But while Xiao was checking whether or not Mulan could get a good husband, a spider interfered, all the teacups fell on the floor, and the meeting was ruined. The matchmaker, Xiao, no longer liked Mulan, and she began to define Hua Mulan's father as a failure in raising a good daughter. At the same time, some soldiers sent by the emperor arrived in their village and declared that 1 man per family must conscript in order to attack and defeat the enemies who invaded their kingdom. While the rest of the family had a male member, the Hua family had 2 daughters and no male son to conscript. So Mulan's father, Hua Zhou, decided to conscript in the army, as he had no other choices. Mulan told her father that she would take over the duty as her father was very old, but he didn't agree with what she said. Mulan was unable to persuade her father, so she took her father's sword, the conscription scroll, and ran away from home before dawn. Mulan's journey was very hard, and she was very tired. Just as she arrived at the military training camp, Mulan was accidentally bumped by a man while standing in line and fell to the ground. When a young man reached out to her, they argued with each other, and the commanding officer had to intervene. He warned the soldiers not to cause trouble, and he returned the 2 swords he had seized. When the commanding officer asked Mulan what his name was, he replied Hua Jun, and just like that, he allowed the group to continue lining up. At night, the other men were taking a bath, but Mulan, being a girl, didn't dare to shower, so she had to wash her body with the rain outside. When the night came again, she had to sleep cautiously among the men. In the morning, the army regulations were being announced, and among the regulations, there was a rule that if a girl sneaked into the army, she would be given the death penalty, and the commanding officer taught them swordsmanship and archery. Then he ordered the team to climb to the top of the mountain, carrying 2 extremely heavy buckets of water. Some of the young men couldn't carry the water bucket anymore, so the buckets fell halfway down the road. Mulan didn't give up easily and worked hard to become an excellent warrior, and she even made new friends. When her friends asked Mulan what kind of girl he liked, Mulan replied that he only liked smart and brave women. The next day, while playing spear with a friend, she revealed her hidden chi to defeat her opponent, and the commander realized that she had powerful chi. Mulan didn't bathe for a long time, and her body smelled bad, so she went out alone to the river to bathe at night. While bathing alone in the river, a friend unexpectedly arrived. Mulan wanted to take a bath alone and asked her friend to come back, and the friend could have gone right back without knowing the truth. On the other hand, the leaders of the 12 Ruran tribes had arrived at Bori Khan's outpost and were already discussing the conquest of the royal capital soon. Leaders refused to join forces with the witch, Stan Yang, and it was only after Bori Khan intervened that they agreed to fight the enemy together. Commander Tung took Mulan to a private room and asked why Mulan was hiding while her chi was strong, which Mulan had a hard time answering. By nightfall, Mulan began to train by combining her chi with martial arts as taught by Commander Tung. The friends gave up halfway, but Mulan did not give up at all and managed to climb to the top of the mountain carrying 2 buckets of water with both hands. Friends respected Mulan quite a lot, Not long after, the Roran army, led by Bori Khan, invaded the fort again and attacked the fort guard soldiers. The witch Xian Yang used her magical power to attack and suppress many soldiers, and she soon defeated the guards. Although Mulan's team had not finished training, they were preparing to leave the military training camp for the battlefield. As the enemy army could invade them at any time, they vowed not to surrender until they defeated the enemy's army and began to leave the town where the enemy was located. When they arrived, they found no surviving soldiers, only corpses everywhere. The night before the war, Mulan's friends were worried that they might all die in tomorrow's battle, and Mulan advised her friends to protect each other and fight the enemies without any of them dying. In the morning, Bori Khan's army arrived again, and Mulan's army was ready to attack the enemy. As the enemy soldiers came forward, the archers began shooting arrows on command, and Mulan and the other elite warriors continued to pursue Bori Khan's special forces as they fled. An enemy soldier who was riding a horse backwards shot arrows at Mulan's group. Some of the other warriors were hit by arrows and fell to the ground, but Mulan was able to quickly dodge the arrows that came at her and shoot back at her enemies. The enemies shot back with arrows, and all of Mulan's friends were hit by arrows, leaving only Mulan alone. Just like that, she continued to chase the fleeing enemy soldiers alone. She arrived at a valley filled with smoke, and a falcon descended from the sky and began attacking her. Causing the horse to flee, Falcon transformed into the witch Xin Yang and started attacking Mulan. The witch asked Mulan what his name was, and Mulan replied that his name was Hua Jun and that he was a soldier of the imperial army. The witch easily defeated Mulan's attacks and replied that he was lying. She made Mulan's sword fly away with her magic weapon and asked Mulan again who he was, and Mulan replied that his name was Hua Jun and that he was a soldier of the imperial army. This time, the witch got angry and shot Mulan in the chest with a magic weapon, saying that the person who lied to her must die. Mulan's body hit the stone wall, and she lost consciousness. When she regained consciousness, her armor was torn, and she no longer lied to anyone as the witch had said but entered the battlefield in the form of a girl. She attacked the enemies in the form of a girl, and when the enemies saw her, they thought she was a witch and ran away. At that moment, the witch Xin Yang arrived, split her body into many birds, and started attacking the soldiers on Mulan's side. The soldiers fought back in a defensive position, and the enemy soldiers on the top of the mountain attacked again. With a large ball of fire, Mulan realized that there was no way her blood-drinking comrades would be able to fight back against the enemy on the other side, and as she glanced at the snow mountain above where the enemies were, she got an idea. Then she went up to the top of the mountain alone with her horse and started shooting arrows at the enemies. The enemies attacked by throwing arrows at Mulan, but the arrows didn't hit, so they shot a ball of fire at the top of the mountain where Mulan was. Mulan realized that the snow mountain was about to collapse and quickly ran down the mountain on her horse. When the mountain collapsed, all the enemy soldiers were killed, and the royal soldiers were far away, so they were able to escape in time. When the situation calmed down, they looked for Hua Jun but couldn't find him, only to see a girl slowly walking towards them. Mulan told them that she was actually Hua Mulan, not Hua Jun, and begged for forgiveness for her sin of joining the army while pretending to be a man. Commander Tang decided to expel Mulan from the royal army for her sin and decreed that if she dared to enter their army under such disguise again, she would be executed. When Mulan left the army, he met the witch Xin Yang again, and Xin Yang said that they were the same people who were abandoned by humans, and she invited Mulan to join forces, but Mulan didn't agree, and she couldn't join an army led by a leader who was scared and ran away from the fight. The witch Xin Yang explained that the leader of their group, Bori Khan, did not run away from the battle in fear but rather went out to capture the royal capital and kill the emperor. Mulan returned to the fortress and told Commander Tang that Bori Khan was coming to the royal palace to fight and defeat the emperor of their kingdom. Mulan explained that the garrison attacks were just to distract them and that the main objective of the enemy army was actually to capture the royal palace. But Commander Tang didn't believe her and even planned to execute Mulan. But when Mulan was really in trouble, the blood-drinking comrades who saved Mulan stood by Mulan's side, and finally Mulan and all the soldiers in the fortress began to leave for the royal palace. On the other hand, Bori Khan's soldiers had already entered the royal capital, and the witch Xian Yan had taken over the body of one of the emperor's excellencies. Xian Yang, a witch shapeshifting as an excellency, falsely reported to the emperor that the Roran army led by Bori Khan had invaded the royal capital after defeating the army outside the city. The emperor, not knowing that the witch was deceiving him, took some soldiers and went out to fight and defeat Bori Khan. When Mulan's group arrived in the city, there wasn't even a guard at the entrance gate. When they arrived in the city, the royal army and Bori Khan's Roran army had started to attack. The emperor was no longer in the palace but was already outside the city. All the soldiers who came with him were ambushed by the enemy on the other side, and the emperor was able to protect himself in time from the danger of the archers, but the unconscious emperor was captured by Bori Khan's soldiers. When Mulan went to the palace, he saw no emperor but only the witch Xian Yang, and Xian Yang said that even though Mulan was accepted by the people, she would never be accepted by the people. Mulan told her to stop doing bad things and start doing good. But the witch Xin Yang told her that it was too late to make amends. She then transformed into a falcon and showed Mulan where the emperor was. Bori Khan tried to shoot and kill Mulan with an arrow, but the witch Xin Yang died protecting Mulan. As Mulan and Bori Khan fought, Mulan's sword unexpectedly fell into the hot lava and was destroyed. Mulan was depressed when her father's cherished sword was destroyed, but the emperor's words of encouragement revived Mulan's spirit, and she began to fight Bori Khan in the form of a phoenix. Mulan fought with Bori Khan on a floating board with a rope tied in the middle, and Mulan snatched the sword from Bori Khan's hand. Then she cut the rope with her sword and made Bori Khan fall down to save the emperor. But Bori Khan, who did not fall into the hot lava and was still alive, shot the emperor with an arrow. The emperor caught the arrow in his hand and tossed it into the air. Mulan kicked the arrow with her leg, and it went straight through Bori Khan's chest. After defeating all the enemies, a celebration was held in the city to celebrate the victory, and the emperor offered to make Mulan a high-ranking warrior in the palace as a reward. However, Mulan refused to live as a warrior in the palace because she liked to be free and happy with her family, and the emperor also agreed with Mulan's request. Before returning, Mulan said goodbye to her friend, Hong Hui, and returned by horse to the small town where her family lived. Seeing Mulan, her family warmly welcomed her with joy, and when Mulan reunited with her father, she apologized for lying and dishonoring the family, as well as destroying her father's prized sword. Mulan's father said that his daughter had done nothing wrong and that he himself was a bad father who had no use for anything and was sad that he had to force his daughter, a girl, to serve in the army. Just then, the palace guards arrived and rewarded Mulan with a sword for saving their kingdom from the enemies by order of the emperor. On her father's sword, only 3 letters, such as loyal, brave, and true, were inscribed, but Mulan's sword added a new letter, devotion to family. The emperor again offered Mulan to serve as a warrior in the palace, and just like that, Mulan continued to live as a brave and courageous girl warrior and protect her kingdom, and the story ended here.